Three of the fantasy baseball season. And here's a few hitters I would drop this week in week 3. The first guy is Michael Taylor of the Kansas City Royals. So Taylor, the former Washington National, he got off to a hot start and was a recommended pickup the first 2 weeks of the fantasy baseball season. But now his numbers have come down and he's been struggling the last few games here. And already fantasy owners have dropped him in 4% of fantasy leagues so far in the early going of the week. On the season, he's ranked 257th as Taylor, 13 for 49 from the plate, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, a 265 batting average, a 321 on base, and 6 runs scored for Taylor. But Taylor now, he just hit a tailspin the last few games here for this Royal team. He's batting about 5th or 6th in the lineup, but he dropped all the way to 8th in yesterday's ball game versus the Tampa Bay Rays. So right now the Royals, they're still going to play him. But he definitely fizzled out. April 15th versus Toronto, 0 for 4. April 17th versus Toronto in the doubleheader, he played one of the games, 0 for 3 in that one. April 18th versus Toronto, 0 for 2. And then April 19th, like I mentioned yesterday, versus the Tampa Bay Rays, 1 for 3 in that game. So right now the production's down. He's only got 1 hit since April 14th's ball game, is Michael Taylor. And right now I think he's an easy drop. And if he gets hot again and starts hitting the baseball good, you go out there and get him. But right now, while the average is down, the power will never really be there for Taylor, even though he's got 2 so far this season. I think he's an easy drop this week to put back on the waiver wire. The next hitter is Gavin Lux of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So Gavin Lux, he was a top prospect in the Dodger system for a few seasons. And last year, he didn't play much for the Dodger team. And this season now, he's on the injured list, is Lux, with a wrist injury. And who knows how long he's going to be out. They say it's a sore wrist, but I think it could be more than that. And obviously, as a batter, your wrists are very important, swinging the bat and moving through the zone with the follow-through and stuff. So on the season, Lux, he's 9 for 41 from the plate. No home runs, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, a 220 batting average, a 244 on base, and 4 runs scored. So even before he went on the injured list, Lux, he was a guy that was probably droppable anyway. And right now with the injury, he's definitely droppable in 10-team and 12-team leagues for sure. And he's been dropped in 6% of fantasy leagues so far. And the last few games for Lux before he went on the injured list on April 16th, April 11th, 0 for 4 versus Washington. April 13th versus the Rockies, 1 for 4 with an RBI. April 14th versus the Rockies, 0 for 2 with an RBI. And now he's been out, so I bet he'll miss more than the minimum of the 10 days on the injured list. And right now there's better second base options on the waiver wire, like Jed Lowry, Joey Wendell, and obviously Chisholm Jr. if you could go out there and get him than Gavin Lux. So Gavin Lux is a droppable player this week. The next player is Miguel Sano of the Minnesota Twins. So Sano, he was on the drop list last week, and once again, he's going to be on it this week because he's still owned in 59% of fantasy leagues as Sano, and he's really struggling to start the season. On the season, he's ranked 751, 5 for 43 from the plate, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, an awful 116 batting average, a 321 on base, so at least he's drawing walks and getting on, but 19 strikeouts in 43 at-bats. He's only got 5 hits on the year, and 2 of them are home runs. So this guy's pretty much a home run strikeout or nothing here for fantasy owners and the Twins. And now the last 3 games have been postponed for the Twins, but they got a doubleheader starting today versus the Oakland A's. And then they got Oakland and Pittsburgh coming up the rest of the week. So the last few games that he did play in Sano, April 14th in a doubleheader versus the Red Sox, 0 for 3. April 15th versus Boston, 1 for 2 with a home run. And April 16th at the Angels, 1 for 3. So right now, he's not producing. And now with the long layoff of not playing a game since the 16th, he could even be rusty after not playing for 4 days here or so. So right now, he's a home run and nothing. He's hurting you in strikeouts in points leagues or category leagues that you have with strikeouts. The on base is good, no doubt, but he's batting 116, and I think he's an easy guy to get away from this week, even though I know he's got 30 home run potential. The next batter is Andrew Benintendi of the Kansas City Royals. So Benintendi, he was supposed to be the next big thing in the major leagues when he came up with the Red Sox, but that just hasn't been the case. He had a couple good seasons early on in his career, but the Red Sox, they traded him in the offseason, and they didn't get much for him, in my opinion, from the Kansas City Royals. So far in the season, he's ranked 680th, is Benintendi, 11 of 54 from the plate, no home runs, 4 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 6 runs scored, a 204 batting average, and a 271 on base. So right now, this Royal team, they had him batting second for the majority of the season, but yesterday they dropped him to 7th in the lineup. So right now, the Royals, they know Benintendi's struggling, and to move him down 5 slots in the lineup for a team that's not that great of a hitting team is a problem in my eyes here. And the last few games for Benintendi, April 15th versus Baltimore, 1 for 4 with an RBI. April 17th, 1 for 7 in the doubleheader versus Toronto with a run and 2 RBIs. And then last night in his first ball game, batting 7th, 0 for 3. So right now, he's just not getting the job done. And if I'm a fantasy owner, I wouldn't wait on him either. And right now, he's been dropped in 2% of fantasy leagues, but he's still owned in 47%. But right now, I would drop Benintendi, and if he gets going again, then he might be a recommended pickup. And the 5th and final hitter I will look to drop this week is Quintin Frazier of the New York Yankees. So Quintin Frazier, another former top prospect here in the Yankees farm system. But right now, fantasy owners, they've had enough of him in the early going. They've dropped him in 7% of fantasy leagues already over the last few days. And on the season, he's 6 of 36 from the plate. 3 runs scored, no home runs, no RBIs, a 167 batting average, and a 250 on base. And his strikeout rate's pretty outrageous as well, with 14 strikeouts and 36 at-bats. So right now for the Yankees, he's playing pretty much every day as Frazier. Well, at least 4 or 5 times a week here for this Yankee team. So right now, the former top prospect, he just can't get things going. We've seen flashes from him over the last few seasons of hot streaks and home run streaks. But right now, there's no reason to hold on to him, in my opinion, especially if he's not playing every day now for the Yankees and he's just not producing. So I think he's an easy drop, and I would get rid of Quintin Frazier right now, and fantasy owners are. So that's a few hitters I would drop here in week 3 of the fantasy baseball season.